Thank you so much for being here. Today we are speaking to Shane Cole. He is the founder of Inspiratus Breathwork, where through the power of the breath, he helps people heal from their trauma and find purpose. Shane, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation. And yeah, we thought it'd be great to start out with some breathing. We're not going to do full breath work. Maybe we could do 5 minutes of breath work at the end of this, like more intense breath work, but I thought it'd be great just to dial in with just 10 mindful breaths.
Excellent. Let's do it.
So this is a super basic practice. I learned this from Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen Buddhist master. Um, and it comes directly from Buddhist sutras on the establishment of mindfulness. So this is a very, very ancient practice. That's very simple. So you're just gonna say with your thoughts what I'm saying out loud while we're doing the breathing. Okay? It's just gonna be breathing through our nose, long, deep breaths through our nose. This is just relaxing breaths, centering breaths. So you ready?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you can close your eyes. Okay. Breathing in. I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out. I know that I'm breathing out. Breathing in. I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out. I know that I'm breathing out. Breathing in. I relax my body. Breathing out. I smile to my body. Actually smile. Breathing in. I relax my body. Breathing out. I smile to my body. Halfway through. Breathing in. I relax my body. Breathing out. I smile to my beautiful body. Breathing in to the present moment. Breathing out to the wonderful moment. Breathing in to the present moment. Breathing out to the wonderful moment. Breathing in to the present moment. Breathing out to the wonderful moment. Last one, deepest one. Breathing in to the present moment. Breathing out. Wonderful. Great. When you're ready, you can wiggle your fingers and your toes. And you can open your eyes.
Wonderful. That was really nice. It kept my mind busy so my thoughts didn't run off. So
Yeah. And it employs the thinking mind a little bit. And it puts the thinking mind onto what we're doing in the present moment. So it's not trying to let go or push away the thinking mind. It's just a very simple, oh, let's align the thinking mind with our present moment actions. So you can do that not only with breathing, but you could do that like breathing in, I am holding the cooking pan. Breathing out, I smell the food that I'm cooking. Or like you could apply it to anything. I do it in cold plunges. Um, like freezing water, breathing in, I feel the cold. Breathing out, I accept the cold. So you can really get creative with it and apply it to whatever present moment action you're doing.
I find it's something that I might have people do when they're doing something they don't like doing the dishes. and
Yeah.
something where they start building a type of anxiety and they want to push away from that, or procrastination, have them center into that and have them push through. But thank you for being here. Tell me about your journey. How did you get into doing this?
Well, I had a lot of really positive influences in my life. Um, I had an aunt who sent me some books on Buddhism when I was in high school, and I was not spiritually minded at all. I was just athlete, um, gamer. I didn't read for fun at all. I was just a pretty normal boy. Um, but my first girlfriend, um, when I was 16, she was great. She was beautiful. I fell in love with her super fast, but she uh experienced sexual assault before we started dating, and I had never been close with someone who was really going through, or at least I didn't know of someone openly that I was really close with who was going through a severe mental health issue. So that really opened my heart in a lot of ways. It was really painful because she had PTSD, um and I was in love with her. So it really opened my heart to suffering in a way that it hadn't been before. And that was right when my aunt sent me these books on Buddhism. So the first book I read was The Heart of the Buddhist Teachings by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen master. Highly recommend. Love him. Um, and then yeah, it just kind of started from there. I started reading more in high school, and then I took a gap semester before starting college, and I lived in Nepal for 3 months, um, on a cultural immersion program, and that was awesome. We got to stay at Tibetan Buddhist monastery, where I learned meditation from Tibetan Buddhist monks directly. That's when I started meditating. We had a yoga guru for 3 weeks, like very traditional hatha. Um, he was great. We backpacked through the Himalayas. We got to see some profoundly important spiritual sites in Nepal that were just mind-blowing. And we didn't have our phones for the whole 3 months, which was great. So I just dived into reading more about Buddhism, Hinduism, yoga, and it was great. Um, that really opened me up a lot. It was also destabilizing. Um, I I wanted to be a politician before. I wanted to go into international relations in school, but I got to Nepal and I saw how destructive our form of globalism is, um, in developing countries, and like wealth extraction and all these things. I just like, we don't need to get into the politics, but I just got like disillusioned from the American political system. So I got back. I was like, I need to figure out something new to do with college. So yeah, I was struggling a bit at the beginning of college. Um, but then um, I read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, um, which is definitely one of my favorite books now. Have you read Man's Search for Meaning?
I haven't read it, but I know of it.
Yeah. I would love to share some about it, because it's important. It'll play into things later. Um, but Viktor Frankl was a Jewish psychologist. He was Austrian, and he was put into the concentration camps during World War II. And his book is a profound telling of what happened inside the concentration camps with a psychological perspective. And the main thesis of his book, there were people who were being killed against their will, obviously, but there were a lot of people who were giving up the will to live. They couldn't go on anymore. And the main difference between the people who gave up the will to live, um, besides the people who kept fighting on, but that people who kept fighting on had purpose in their life. They had deep purpose. That was the quintessential thing that allowed them to survive. So when he survived the camps, he got out and he created this entire psychological framework called logotherapy that is focused on bringing purpose into people's life. And purpose being an antidote to mental illness. So that book, that was like, whoa, I need to find some purpose in my life. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. I read it when I was actually sick with COVID, so I was locked in my room. And then after reading it, I was like, super interested in meditation, spirituality, psychedelic assisted therapy. I could be a psychedelic assisted therapist. I could go into this evolving world of therapy that's, there's so many alternative things cropping up right now, which are really powerful and cool. I was a sophomore in college. I was like, yeah, I could still change my major and become a psychologist and work in the alternative world. So that's what set me on the path. Um, there's a lot more with breath work, but I would really love to hear from you as well. Like like how did you get um into this world? How did you get into being a hypnotist? I'm curious in your story as well. I have a lot more, like I have more to go with like the breath work and how I found all that. But that was like basic what got me into spirituality and what got me into wanting to be in the mental health world. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, so I have some questions based
Yeah.
on what you said so far. Um, did you grow up with any kind of religion like before? Like, did your family have a religion?
Nah, my mom was Catholic, but we went to church 2 or 3 times my whole life. She she grew up in a super Catholic Ohio and had abusive nuns, and she definitely wanted to keep us away from that. There was still a part of her that was like, maybe like God would be good in some places, but my dad was secular. Um, and yeah, we didn't really grow up with religion. So, yeah, I was just atheist, skeptic, thought I knew, thought I knew it all when I was 14. Um, but yeah, no religion, no religion.
And you mentioned purpose, and to a lot of people, what you were doing with the athletics and sports and everything, that's a purpose in its own. What was lacking in it that made you want more?
Hmm. Um, I don't I think it was the transition between high school and college. I was um I was perfectly happy with sports in high school. I mean I played soccer, ski race, lacrosse, hiking, camping. I was I still am very active, but was super active as a kid. Um, tying it back to the religion, which I think why I wanted something more than sports was our religion in my family. My dad, he was a ski racing coach, um, coached some of the top ski racers in the world, like Lindsey Vonn, Michaela Schifrin, and then he became a strength and conditioning coach, and he trains professional athletes from all different types of sports. Um, so sports were our religion. Um, and yeah, it was almost dogmatic at times. The centered focusedness on like just sports and like sports and like athletic accomplishment being like at the utmost importance. Uh, so yeah, it was just I felt like I got to college and I was like, well, I'm super grateful I did all those sports, but I'm not I'm not really into the performance mindset. I don't want to achieve in sports. I was just looking for something more. It was also lacking spiritual connection, um, which I've now with skiing, that's like my main sport. I've now started to, because of how hyper competitive it was lacking a spiritual connection, and I've been starting to find that now more in my relationship with skiing, which is awesome.
Okay, and you mentioned that you found this during like moving from high school to college. And, some kids might find that kind of Buddhist book and just put it down and say, what is this? And, toss it to the side. What made you pick it up? Like, why? Why?
It it was initially because of the amount of suffering my first girlfriend was going through. Um, she was asking me questions like, why do I feel like it's my fault that I got raped? Um, just like tough thing. And I was 16, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Um, and I loved her so much, and I wanted to help her find solace and peace. Um, so yeah, I saw they had been sitting on my desk for about a month, but then her mental health issues started to pick up, and yeah, it just spoke to me. So that's like in the present moment, but you know, the why has been the rest of my life that's followed. It was that book was calling to me to bring me to where we are at right now and where I'm at in my own life. So yeah, it was calling in the present, and the future was calling as well.
It makes sense when you get there and you can look back and kind of piece it all together. And
Yeah.
what did you find in that book? What spoke to you? What particular teaching that you could use to help her and yourself?
Um, I think it was I think if I started anywhere else, I wouldn't have kept going. But because of the simplicity of Zen and the lack of ego that Thich Nhat Hanh writes with, it just everything was so simple, and how he explained the Four Noble Truths, um, and the basic breathing practices that like we just did together. Yeah, it's just really, really simple. And it's like there is suffering in life. Suffering is inherent. First noble truth. The root of suffering is attachment. We can free ourselves from suffering. This is the eightfold path, which if you follow, we think this is a guide that will help you release yourself from suffering. It's just like didn't seem dogmatic at all. It's just like, look, these are the conclusions that we've come to from the Buddhist tradition, from Siddhartha, and they seem to hold up pretty well in real life. And I was like, this is really cool. I think I was searching. It was to bring solace to her, but also end of 10th grade, we had read Camus, uh, Albert Camus, and we read The Stranger, and we had some crazy discussions in my English class about it, and it just kind of broke me down a bit. It kind of made me depressed. I was like, there is no inherent meaning to any of this. So I was kind of coming out of that, and then I was like, oh, I found something in Zen Buddhism where it's just simple. It wasn't trying to make a lot of meaning. It's just like these are some guidelines for life if you wish to follow them. I was like, this is something I need. This is something I need after coming out of the nihilism, you know.
Okay, so you were able to kind of find a meaning and almost like a purpose within those writings that the book that you had read had kind of stripped away. And how did you feel that you began to change from that?
My heart started to open a lot. Um, I gave back to the people around me a lot. I was just really started building a lot of community at my school. Um, yeah, Yeah, it was, and I started to, um, yeah, I started to break away from the performance mindset that our society is dominated by. It's like, you know, be the best athlete, get the best grades, do all these things, like be at the top, compete against each other. I just started to that started to loosen its grip on me. Um, I just started to become more curious about the world. But yeah, it was great. I mean, and people around me noticed it like just within I started reading it at the beginning of junior year, and at graduation that year, I was invited to come even though I was a junior, and they gave me this award for citizenship at my school, which usually goes to seniors, but they didn't like apparently like none of the seniors did as good of a job as I did, like in like giving back and like being a citizen at the school. So they gave it to me. I was like, whoa, this is awesome. So yeah, that was great. Um, yeah, and then I started like, yeah, I just started reading more, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
And did you see that there was any change in the way you played sports? Because it was kind of like you were holding two worlds there. You had the, you know, very dogmatic, win competition, and then you had the other side, which was, kind of almost like a pushback for you of what you grew up with.
Yeah, it definitely allowed me to find more flow. Um, because I didn't have to perform as much. Um, so definitely helped me find more flow for sure.
Okay. And did you find you were winning more or anything like that?
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I won Colorado State championships for high school skiing my senior year of high school. Won both the giant slalom and the slalom, and yeah, and I was doing well. I was doing well, but at that point, I was more just having fun and um getting more into big mountain skiing and throwing flips and stuff like that. So yeah.
Very good. So,
Yeah. But yeah, that was my childhood. That was high school. So yeah.
yeah. And you had the question for me earlier of how I got into hypnosis. And for me, it was a kind of a journey that started from the age of 8. I saw things, spiritual kind of things at night, shadow beings, light beings, that kind of thing. And it piqued my interest in just mysteries, that kind of thing. And I kind of left it there. There was a lot of trauma in the house at the time.
Mm,
And, my dad and my mom, they didn't get along very well. So, he was very abusive towards her.
mm,
And I kind of just kept that with me. And I went through relationships where I was very angry. I was very angry because of what had happened. And it was all kind of unconscious to me. So I got into meditation, and I was able to control my anger through meditation and kind of create that separation enough to really kind of self-analyze myself. And when I felt any anger arise, I was able to make a choice and decide, do I want this or not? Is it good or is it not? And, it led me to kind of delve deeper into meditation and find the psychedelics.
mhm,
And, I started working with the psychedelics, mainly psilocybin, and, came to the realization that there was a consciousness in nature and that there was a God and you could connect. So I kept working with that. And, the interesting thing about the psychedelics is they kind of break down everything that you are. They bring you up, show you, just completely obliterate you. And then they give you a kind of mission that, hey, you have to help people. But they don't necessarily tell you what to do, just that
mm,
you need to do it.
mhm,
So, you know, I started moving into this mission that I had no idea where it was going to go. And I honestly felt lost. I did feel lost. Like, where am I going? What am I doing? What is all this? And I went to a cabin once and I was there with my wife and we were talking to the owners and they asked her like, "Oh, what do you do?" And she was very confident, "I'm going to be a dental hygienist and I'm going to school for that." And I knew that the question was going to come around to me and I already felt like, you know, self-conscious in a way. But he asked me and I said, I really don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm kind of everywhere. And he said, is this guy with long hair and very cool guy up in Julian, California. And he said, I was like you. You'll find your way. And that just it hit. It really hit. And I was just confident from then on that I was going to find some kind of place. And I ended up connecting with someone who was a hypnotherapist. They were just doing like a 15-minute like trial checkout hypnosis. And I thought, well, I've tried so many other altered states. I had worked with some of the breath work as well and psychedelics. And, I went in and it was, to me, it wasn't that interesting. It was like, oh, that's hypnosis. Okay. It's not as cool as the psychedelics or anything like that. But he did put one suggestion in there that I was going to do the things that I had been putting off. And that just caught me on fire. It was like, okay, every kind of doubt that I had in myself that, hey, why are you going to try to do this? Why are you going to try to teach people meditation? There's already tons of people doing this. That all just fell away. And I just started doing it. And, I thought, hey, this is really effective. Like this hypnosis actually works. And I think it's a good place to synthesize what I've learned in the psychedelic, what I've learned with, meditation. And I didn't feel there was enough with meditation. Like I could tell someone how to meditate, I could show someone how to meditate, but they're not going to do it, not if they don't really want to. But with hypnosis, it was very involved. It was like a co-creation. I could meditate with them. And I started doing it and I went into it and, you know, I've been very successful at helping people with this modality and just, people have come to me where they've gone to psychologists and have gone through the whole system and it hasn't worked. And they come to me, they do a session and they feel a change. And it's mostly because I go to the heart. I think that's where the change happens. Like, you can work with the subconscious and the conscious mind, but I think ultimately it's in the heart where the change happens. And yeah, I've been working with the hypnosis for a while now, and it's just deeply rewarding.
Hmm. Beautiful. That's great. Yeah, it's the modern mental health world has lost touch with the soul, and we need soul work. We really need soul work right now. You know, it's not a CBT, like just up in the thoughts and redirecting the thoughts. It's just not enough. There's so much more to our psyches than meets the eye, and that we can research scientifically, at least now, so yeah, you found a way to connect to people's souls.
Yes, and there's this thought about the wounded healer, and that everyone kind of goes into the healing work because of their wounds. And I'm curious to know what were yours?
Yeah. So for me, um, my wounding started in the fifth grade. I just kind of stumbled into this world. I started having desires in the fifth grade to dress femininely or to be a girl. And they kind of came out of nowhere. And they were kind of scary. And I didn't know how to talk about it at all. So I didn't talk about it and I hid it from my parents, from my family, from my friends. I just didn't talk about it with anyone. And I went online to start to find community, start to figure out what was going on. And I just typed in, I typed in like boy turns into girl, stuff like that. And I found all these stories online um, of boys being feminized by their sisters. And this was all right when I was hitting puberty. So I started to get aroused by these stories. And then I got my first iPhone in sixth grade and I found memes. Um, they were called Sissy captions. Um, and there were these memes. It was the same thing. It was um, memes about boys being feminized or like wanting to be feminized. And the meme captions were basically directed at the user, the man or the boy who was watching it, trying to convince them to feminize themselves. Um, and yeah, it kind of just made you feel, they kind of just made you feel shitty about being a man, kind of humiliated you. Um, but it had pictures of just normal, beautiful women in like the middle, and then the women would be like telling you something with the captions. So it sucked you in with what you wanted, which was like the beautiful woman that which would get you aroused, which would get me aroused, and then the captions basically saying first it was very light captions saying we know you want to wear panties, or it's so much better being a girl, or like you have a small penis, like you'd be better off being a girl, or stuff like that. Um, and yeah, I got addicted to looking at these captions at a very young age. They were like some of the first pornographic content, and it wasn't even pornographic, but like sexual content that I ever found. And I got addicted to watching it. And I tried watching normal porn or straight stuff, and it just didn't really do it for me. Um, I think the sissy captions just play on deeper emotions like shame or guilt. Um, and then it ties your sexuality to those feelings. So yeah, I would be looking at pictures of normal girls or just trying to masturbate, but I wouldn't feel like the shame or the humiliation. So it would be harder to do that, to like to get aroused. Um, so yeah, it was dark, but I compartmentalized it really well throughout middle school and high school. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't cross dress. I didn't show any of it to the outside world. It would just be like most nights, it would just be like, 5 minutes. I'd go into the bathroom, look at some captions, masturbate. Some nights I would like binge on Pornhub. Um, and yeah, it wasn't that bad in high school, but after I graduated high school, um, it was the June after I graduated. I was kind of going through a big identity shift. I went to the same school, kindergarten through 12th grade, graduated. I'm leaving this school. Who am I without this school and my relationships there? Big identity shift taking place. That month in June 2019, it's just raining in Colorado. That where I grew up in Colorado, it's just raining the entire time, and it's like cold mountain rain. So it's not pleasant to go outside. Um, and I started watching a lot more of the pornography, and I started to go deeper into the rabbit hole, and I found sissy hypnosis pornography. Um, so step up from the captions, but it's the same. It's all the same thing. The captions are linked with the hypnosis, but the hypnosis are videos of cross-dressers or transgender women, like that kind of porn with the captions still, either visually on the video or auditorily. And the auditory ones have like a very hypnotic voice to them. Again, with the goal of, and all of what they're saying through the captions or the audio is they're trying to brainwash men or boys into believing they're trans. And it got really dark because it's not just about being trans. Um, it's about basically giving it, it's basically about becoming like a trans prostitute and about like giving up all of your responsibility um to just serve men or like serve cock or just like all these like it's just really dark stuff. Since coming out of it, I've been able to boil down what, like, if you were to take all of the messaging um and combine it into like one or two sentences, what the main message is from all the Sissy hypnosis content, in my opinion, is we know you don't have the masculine energy to that you need to attain your dreams. So you should cut off your dick and become a cocksucking whore instead. That's like the main messaging. So it's playing on this deep sense that a lot of men feel that they aren't manly enough, that they don't have the masculine energy to get the girl or to get the dream job or to fulfill their purpose, to fulfill their dreams, really. And um and they said, yeah, you don't have the energy to do that. So you should just give up all your responsibility. And yeah, just become brain dead, basically. And yeah, it's just really, really dark, really dark. Um, so this was all conveyed through, again, repeated mantras. So with the captions, with the audio, with like the hypnotic voice. There are even like deep, like hypnotic meditation journeys that people can go on, where they like implant ideas of femininity or force femininity into you. There's also these, I never got into these, thank God. But I've heard of them. There are these Bambi sleep files, they call them, which is sleep hypnosis. So it's these hypnotic tracks that people play while they're sleeping to program themselves into being a sissy. And these like people listen like all night and it like really, really fucks with people's head from what I've read. Thankfully, I never listened to those. But um yeah, so I started watching that and it was scary. And I finally told someone about these like thoughts I had been having. I told uh the girlfriend that I was dating at the time, my second girlfriend. And I didn't tell her really all about the pornography. Like I slightly mentioned it, but it was just more like opening like, hey, like sometimes I have thoughts of being a girl. And she was super open and respecting and kind and listening. And since we were going our separate ways to different colleges, we weren't continuing the relationship. But yeah, I just told her at the end and she listened to me and she was really nice. But yeah, I was just like, after that summer and getting sucked deeper into the sissy hypnosis, I was like, I need to at least tell someone something. Like I can't keep this on the inside anymore. Um, so then end of that summer, I I cross-dressed for the first time in public. I told my After I told my girlfriend, I told my best friend, one of my best friends, who's a girl, and we were going to a rave together at Red Rocks. And I was thinking like, maybe a rave would be a good place to try this. And with the cross-dressing going into that, I had wanted to cross-dress before I started watching the hypnosis pornography, before I got into the sissy stuff. So I was always in the back of my head, like, I want to discover this part of myself because I know I had these desires before I started watching the sissy content, before I got addicted to this. And Yeah, so I want to try this. Like I want to explore this and see. So yeah, we went to a rave together. She helped me do my makeup and everything. It was actually a lot of fun. It was a great time. That was yeah, September 2019. And then I went to Nepal for 3 months. So that was good. That kind of gave me a break. I didn't have my phone, you know. Um, and then I got to college. I started at the University of Southern California spring 2020, and I had 8 weeks of real school. And um COVID hit. So I got like a little taste of college, and then I got sent back home, and COVID sent me like a lot deeper into the Sissy Hypno because of how much time and how much isolation there was. And um yeah, it was dark. It was dark. Um And, Benjamin's podcast, I didn't make it fully clear, at least to some of the people in the comments. So I really want to make it clear in this video that this is like highly addictive material, like black tar heroin of pornography. And I tried my hardest throughout my entire life since I started watching it to stop watching it, and I could not. I could not do it on my own. From what it sounds like, from how I described it, and I don't know, like, do do you think like you would probably have to watch it to get a better sense of this, but do you think that people are used like the people designing this type of hypnosis are like learned in hypnosis? Like, does it sound like I'm trying to get a gauge on like how professional, how tactful, and how malicious this stuff actually is.
Yeah, so
Does it sound like people are playing around, or does it sound like there are like smarter people behind this?
from what you described, well, here's the thing. Like if it's professional level, like I don't think people who are professional hypnotherapists would ever do this kind of thing, but it's also very new. And I don't think enough hypnotherapists know about it, that they might get suckered into doing something like this. So that possibility is there. And I'm actually going to be talking to more hypnotherapists about this so they can stay away from this kind of thing. Because it's going to start coming into our field. And, a lot of hypnotherapists have had to log off calls because men have been masturbating on the calls. So, there's that.
Oh, yeah.
It happens, so, there's this whole world of hypno kink and erotic hypno. And I feel like it's people are finding out the very basics about hypnosis and learning that and just using it as a kind of addition to sex work.
Mm.
And, you know, and I have here something we call OTHTA, and I'll give you the kind of basics on what hypnosis is. So it's an overload of information. So you overload the conscious mind with information that disorganizes the basically the inhibitory process. So you overload this, so there's a disorganization, then you trigger fight flight. Once that's triggered, it leads to a hypersuggestibility. And then after that, you have access
Could
to
it
the
be freeze? Could it be freeze as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah,
Or the fourth F that I like to put on there. I'm not going to say it because it's one of those, you know. Um, but
yeah.
so overload of information, disorganize the inhibitory process, trigger fight, flight, freeze. That leads to a hypersuggestibility and access to the subconscious mind. So basically, if you can do those things, you make someone hypersuggestible. And anything that you say after you've activated this, disorganized this, tends to land into the subconscious mind. So, in what you mentioned, okay, so you're looking at this stuff, it's overloading your mind with information, with senses. It activates one of the F's or all of them,
Yeah.
and now they're telling you things. Your
Hmm.
subconscious mind is literally open at that point to the suggestions of the video,
Hmm.
and it's going right into the subconscious mind. So it covers all the basics of what would be hypnosis.
Mm.
Now, actual hypnosis that someone does is very, very different. Like, a lot of it's conversational, a lot of it kind of looks like what you do with your breath work, open the mind and instill purpose. And to me, hypnosis is really a key. It's a key to opening the mind, and the suggestion, the intent of the suggestion, that's the part that could be good or could be bad.
Mm.
So, like, imagine this. You have this sinister person who gets into breath work. They're opening, they're connecting the physiology, and then once they give the suggestion, they say you're all awful, you're bad people. That is going to land. That is going to go right into the mind. If they say there is no purpose, just do nothing, and the person's feeling that ecstasy,
Hmm. Hmm.
they are going to they're going to mess them up. So hypnosis is the key, but the suggestion, if it's a positive suggestion, will land. If it's a negative suggestion, it'll land. But it's really the intent of the person. And the intent of the person in the videos you describe is very sinister. It's very sinister. And I don't think it's a professional thing to do. And I do think it is effective because hypnosis, even if you're not very experienced, it's very effective. You can be the worst hypnotist, but you still get results. And
Mm.
if you're a really good hypnotist, you get better results. But you don't have to be that learned to do some damage. So I do think it's high grade in the sense that it is going to be highly effective. But as far as I see hypnosis as an art, as I'm sure you see your breath work as an art.
Of course. Of course.
It is it has nothing to do with the art of hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I guess when I was saying professional, I wasn't saying there are people in the hypnotherapy world doing it, but like eh, using like high level skills that like you would learn.
I think it kind of neglects a bunch of the conversational stuff.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can hypnotize someone even before they know they're being hypnotized.
Hmm.
And a lot of it's conversational, a lot of it's rapport, a lot of it's pacing and leading. And, you know, when I hold a session, most of the work gets done in the cognitive, which is just talking. And a lot of that just gets vented out during talking. And then by the time we get to the actual countdown hypnosis, a lot of it's been resolved. And now it's just kind of a handshake between conscious and subconscious in that portion.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think they are using kind of base techniques, but those basic techniques at the bottom, they are effective. Like you don't need any more of the high level stuff to do damage.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, and then it has a bunch of the laws of hypnosis, like the law of repetition is in there, the law of authority, dominance. They play themselves as you are lower than me, I am higher, I'm the bigger man, you are this, you are that. So
Hmm.
there is that law of dominance. Law of association is in there. That's a big one with hypnosis.
What's
So
that?
the law of association.
Yeah.
So the law of association, basically, it's like whenever you start getting like sexual, you'll start hearing those thoughts because now
Uh,
been
Uh,
associated
yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So there are a lot of keys of hypnosis that are present in those videos. And to me, I think it's criminal what they're doing. I really do think it's criminal because I can't go out and hypnotize, kids without the parents having permission. And even still, I don't work that way. But yeah, it really shouldn't be done. And I
no,
don't think it should be out there. And, it can get political very fast because, of trans rights and things like that. But I think if you are born feeling that way and that's the way you want to go, that's one thing. But
yeah, of
if
course.
you're being coerced by, an outside source and really literally being brainwashed into it, that's a very different thing. We can do great healing with hypnosis, but if someone's sinister, they can do big amounts of damage.
Yeah,
And I think people who are thinking about getting into this or even just doing excessive amounts of pornography really need to kind of reel back and, you know, ask themselves, is this natural?
yeah.
And I mean, your time in you say Nepal? That was a really cool story because it got you away from the phone. And I mean, how did you feel being away from that?
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. I mean, we don't know we don't know what's being taken from us in terms of social connection right now. The amount of fun we had and jokes we made because of the boredom we were in, like it was spectacular. Spectacular. And now like you see kids like when they're bored, or people my age when they're bored, it's just like phones out and it's like, ah, sad. Um, it's really sad. But yeah, it was great without the phones. It was spectacular. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was just reading. I read so much. Like I was just flying through books. Like I'd never done before. So that was great.
Yeah, I grew up without the cell phone and I got one when I was maybe 27 or 28. And, I've had times where I have to just bring out an old phone and switch the SIM card into a flip phone because I'm like, this is too much. This is
Mhm,
I feel like I'm too immersed.
mhm.
And it really does feel like a kind of a veil is lifted when you're off of the phone and it's you can see reality more. Like everything outside looks better. And
Yeah.
it could be just the blue light, but I think there's more to it. And nature, I think. And, just the journeys that I've had with the psychedelics have all been very thematic. And the theme is always technology versus nature.
Mm,
And it's kind of a divine feminine versus this technological thing that is not natural. And it's that's the struggle that's happening. And the message really is get back to nature, get back to earth, disconnect from that stuff, be free.
mhm. Yep,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely. Yeah, we need it. COVID sent me a lot deeper and yeah, it was tough. But again, great influences. I'm reading a bunch of spiritual stuff during COVID. I'm diving really deep. I found Wim Hof during COVID. Um, for those of you who don't know, Wim Hof has helped popularize breathwork in the West. By setting all these crazy world records in ice immersion. He's tested and pushed past what we have thought the limits of the human body is. And he's brought his breathwork practices to science to test it. So that's why he's helped popularize breathwork in the West so much. But I watched this video of this guy like climbing Mount Everest in his shorts and like doing all this crazy shit. And he's so, ecstatic and exuberant. And I watched this Vice documentary. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, so cool. I want to try the breathing practices. And right after it, I did his 10-minute daily practice, the Wim Hof method. And instantly like my body started tingling. I had this high come on in my body. Instantly I shifted my consciousness way faster than any meditation had done before. And I entered into a state of highness and aliveness and deep connection with my body. It's like, whoa, this is so cool. So I started practicing that daily fall 2020. That definitely helped me cope with everything that was happening with COVID and just get through those crazy times. And yeah, that was through COVID. When it was, yeah, so what's the timeline here? So that was fall 2020. January 21 is when I read Man's Search for Meaning, and I decide to go into psychology. I'm still in the hypnosis world deeply, but I'm still hiding it. I'm not really cross-dressing in public at college or anything. I'm in LA. I'm living with college-age people. Classes are online though. But I'm not, there's some social circles during that. I'm not dressing out in public. Read Man's Search for Meaning, decide I want to be a psychedelic assisted therapist. A month after that, by a string of events, I got connected to Dr. Rael Khan, who runs a neuroscience lab at USC where they do brain scans on meditators and they research psychedelic assisted therapy. They're researching how ancestral trauma gets stored in our DNA through our epigenetics and how meditation or psychedelic assisted therapy can heal epigenetic ancestral trauma. So we were looking at biochemically exactly where is that stored and how do you release it. And I got connected to him and he let me be a research assistant in the lab, even though I was the only undergrad and I just decided to switch to psychology. I hadn't even started taking a psychology class yet. But he let me in the lab. So that was really cool. Got some experience, learned so much about altered states of consciousness, the neuroscience behind them. And I learned a lot about genetics and epigenetics during that. So that was really cool. Summer 21, I'm kind of reaching a breaking point with the addiction. During COVID that spring, I was having I was having a really hard issue. I was just getting rejected by a lot of girls for like light hookups or um there were a few girls that I wanted to date that, I put myself out there and got rejected or friend zoned. So I was having a really tough go with it. So I started those experiences started to affirm what the sissy porn was telling me is that like you're not man enough. So I started seeking up like seeking out secret like hookups with guys. Um Even though I'd never been attracted to guys, um I was like, things aren't working with girls, like I just want some sort of connection. Um and the sissy porn was like obviously like very aggressively trying to brainwash you into doing it. So, um, yeah, I started doing that, which they were fine, but kind of just brought me more into it. Um, I met a lot of people who were very lost, just as lost as me, if not more lost. Yeah, lots of darkness. But then summer 21, I'm thinking like I need to figure this out. I need to end this addiction. I need to do something. And the thought that came up was like I'm in this shame loop of hiding the fact that I want to dress, that I want to cross dress, and the shame loop is bringing me back to the pornography. I know I wanted to start cross dressing before I started watching the pornography, so that summer I committed to first day of school, classes were going to go back in person. First day of school, I'm cross-dressing, I'm getting makeup, I'm getting girls' clothes that I can go to school in, and I'm gonna cross-dress. And like all my friends, everyone's gonna know, and I'm not gonna hide it anymore. Um, so I started doing that, and that was all through fall 21, and it was actually really great. It was a really beautiful experience. I actually stopped watching the pornography for a while. It was the longest break that I took. Um, up to that point. So I was like, oh, there is something here. Like I think I was right about breaking the shame cycle here. During that time also, I just went fully celibate. So like I didn't hook up I didn't try to hook up with any girls. I didn't hook up with any guys. I was just like, I'm just gonna do me and I'm just gonna figure this out. Um, so yeah, it was actually a really beautiful time. There was a lot of euphoria that came with that and a lot of social attention and social currency that was really powerful that started to misguide me. Um, and I started to develop gender dysphoria pretty heavily. I was starting to feel it before then from the pornography, but when I socially transitioned and I was getting like so much attention from the world, I started to get really intense gender dysphoria. Um, and I really wanted to alter my body, start taking hormones. I thought there was nothing left for me as a guy. I wasn't being seen in the world as a guy. Um, like COVID hit, there was a bunch of loneliness with that. Then nothing was working out romantically for me. So I was like, there's nothing left for me as a guy. Also, I talked about this in Benjamin's podcast. You know, there's also not just the conditioning from the pornography, but the conditioning from broader popular culture right now is um definitely there's a lot of fear towards men and towards masculinity. Um, and yeah, I was raised in a very liberal environment that taught me that um, you know, about what toxic masculinity is. And you're gonna grow up and like you're gonna be a toxic man, and you need to like check your privilege and all these things. And um, yeah, it was just tough because like society at large was saying it's not all right to be a man. And then this pornography in the background was telling me it's also not okay to be a man. Um, and yeah, yeah. So I started to get a lot of dysphoria. Um, so we're getting close to like the breaking point when I started to find healing, but I went a little bit deeper into the darkness before coming out of it. So we can take a break once I get to that point, and you can dive into some questions if you want to. Um, so I go home December 21. I tell my parents I want to transition genders and they like freak out. Like they don't want me to do that at all. They want me to wait. We get into this like yelling argument about it. Um, and yeah, it was just really, really tough. There was just so much stress in the household and um yeah, just like a lot of mean things were said and my parents were doing the best. They were facing a crazy situation with all of this, But I get back to LA after that, and there's so much like stress from my parents that I fall back into Sissy Hypno really, really hard. Um, and yeah, I was like binging it, and then I went out and started like hooking up with guys again, and I put myself into two situations where I got sexually assaulted. Um, and yeah, it was it was really scary, and it wasn't really honestly, it wasn't that scary during the time. Um, I, but it, looking back on it, it left intrusive thoughts and definitely psychological wounds. Um, but yeah, looking back on it, it's like, damn, the porn basically, it was scary that something had control over me that much. That something could tell me to put myself into a situation where I'm 100% in harm's way and just let it happen to me. Um, yeah, it's very powerful. It's very powerful stuff. And to contextualize this, this was conditioning, brainwashing that had started since the 10th grade for me and had built that all the way up. I read there's a Sissy Hypno recovery subreddit, um, of people trying to recover from this stuff. And there are people who, like, I read this one post from this wife reaching out for help. Her husband found Sissy Hypno, and within a month of finding it, wanted to get a divorce from his wife and was going to start taking hormones to transition within a month, within a single month. So I resisted it for a very, very long time. At least I tried to. But for some people who are more easily convinced or gullible, it can go to work on people really, really fast, which is scary. Um, so also right during that time when I put myself in those two situations, I started taking hormones. I was like, I'm done being a guy, like there's nothing left for me. Um, and yeah, I was still in school. Like school was going really well. Classes were good. So I would have had that support, but I probably, if things didn't change right then, I probably would have just started taking hormones, transition, and just probably would have led a very dark sexual life that could have put me in even more harm's way. Um, but a change happened. And yeah, but yeah, I want to pause here if you have any questions, if you want to dive into things.
Yeah, it's very crazy the way it works because it not only made masculinity seem awful, but it also told you to be this really dark version of the feminine. So it was not only disempowering your masculine side, but it was saying, here, your only option is be this disempowered version of a woman, this distorted version, like this
Yes.
demeaned version. So it was like working both ends on you. And it's that is crazy.
Yes. So it not, and yes, you're totally right. Not only does it demean the masculine, but it demeans the feminine as well. And what, what it is telling you to be is the most perverted version of the feminine. Um, yeah, horrible. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
It kind of carries like a chauvinistic thing to it too as well, that the only purpose for a woman is to please a man. So it's like this chauvinistic thing as well that demeans both sides. And it's almost like a really awful man trying to thin the competition between other men, and playing on the insecurities that are there sometimes, or maybe not even insecurities, but in your case, you had a little kind of interest, that if it had been left to its own thing, who knows where it would have gone? It could have just gone away. It could have turned into something like just cross-dressing as like an androgynous thing, like an art, like
Hmm.
like Bowie or something, It could have been that, but this stuff got to you and distorted even. I think it even distorted the act of cross-dressing into something that it's not. So
Yeah.
very, very sinister. And you know, what I found interesting there is that there was a kind of crosswire going on where it made shame feel good in a way. It made shame feel sexually good,
Hmm.
and it was crossing wires.
Hmm.
And I think what we do to the mind will kind of take place in the body. And I've been playing with this idea that we kind of have a almost like a Gnostic philosophy going on in culture right now, where it moves us more into the right brain. And in my view, we have the analytical left brain where it's very much the divine masculine, and then we have the right brain, which is the divine feminine. And the way we are going in our culture, where there is kind of no reality, no fixed reality, and we're being bombarded with fear on the TV and on social media, that it's put everyone in a kind of almost like a social hypnosis and moved us over into the feminine, but in a disbalanced way. Not a divine feminine, but almost like a devouring feminine.
Hmm.
And that has kind of destroyed the masculinity in a way in a lot of men. And I've heard of people just through regular porn starting to, like, men starting to feel like they are women, because I don't believe it's natural for a man to watch that much porn. Like, we didn't have this internet before. We had access to maybe one or two tapes, and beyond that it was like there was nothing. You had to go out and do the dance, you had to meet someone, and you had to connect, and there was like sex was more of a heart and mind and body. It was all kind of there, but it was through our own perspective. And with pornography, it's not the same, because we're watching someone else do it. And a lot of men have said that watching this stuff makes them feel that way. And I heard of the Wachowski brothers, the guys who made the Matrix. They're
Hmm.
both sisters now. And
Oh, really?
yes, and one of them said that the pornography really inspired him, that when he saw porn, he saw how much pleasure the woman was getting, and that kind of it resonated with him, that he wanted to be the woman receiving that amount of pleasure. So it's also the normal porn, and I think the amounts that men have available to them, it really does affect them in that way.
Hmm.
And what you're describing with the repeating mantras and everything, I mean, that can really mess someone up. And yeah, why do you think that you had those initial thoughts before the pornography?
Um, I have stories. I have no idea if they're true or not, but um they're how should I say this? Well, firstly, what sparked it was I was watching this movie with Jack Black in it. It was just like a funny comedy movie. I don't even know what the fuck it was. But there was a scene where like he wakes up and he's like stuck in this house and he's dressed as a girl and he's like feminized. And I like instantly like watching that, and I was like watching it with friends and stuff. Like I got a boner watching it, and I was like, and I was fifth grade, like I was tiny. And I was like, and yeah, it seemed like there was like pleasure in that transformation. And then after that, that was when I started thinking about it more. Um, even though I tried to stop. So I guess I didn't start thinking about it on my own. I guess it was placed there. Um, but um, yeah, my my dad was I love him. He was really intense and he went through a really, really hard childhood, and there was a lot of pain and trauma there, and he didn't like hurt me or like do I like he was a great dad, but he brought like a lot of that intensity into like the athletics and the sports and stuff. And I I don't know if this is the case for sure, but I think part of that, I wanted to reject that. I wanted to reject that and not be that. So I saw this dressing up, you know, doing this. It was like it allowed me to daydream a bit and escape from the realities of being a man. Um, and yeah, there were like, yeah, yeah, my dad had it really hard, and he like was definitely doing his best, and he was great. But there was a part of me that like didn't, I didn't consciously know it, but there was a part of me subconsciously that did not want, I did not want to be the kind of man that he was setting as an example, I think. Um, so there was a part of my subconsciousness I wanted to reject that.
Yeah, it's, I like the thing you said about the movie with Jack Black. I remember seeing a movie called Mannequin, and there was a character in there called Hollywood, and he was very flamboyant. And I also remember seeing Boy George for the first time and thinking how cool he looked and how I wanted to dress that way. But, I didn't associate it with the feminine. I just thought it was a cool style. And I think there's something in that with kids when they see this kind of flamboyance and this fashion that is so nice looking, that there is a kind of a wanting to do that. But I think now culture has kind of jumped on that and said, okay, then if you want any of that, that means you're a girl. And it's kind of a leap,
You
you
should take
know.
hormones when you're in middle school, you know, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
You're talking about the pornography, the hypno pornography, and you know, I only learned about it through the podcast that you were on with Benjamin. But what I've been seeing is kind of the opposite. In hypnosis, we have kind of what we call suggestibility,
Mhm.
and what works for one person won't work for another. And we have like the introvert and extrovert. And I've noticed that a lot of the kids who are, moving into this trans identity, they all fit a certain type of suggestibility. And it's more of an introvert, which I don't get from you. But the stuff that works on them is more of the TikTok type of thing. And it is hypnosis, but it's not the hypnosis that is, kind of, you could tell it's hypnosis. It's more of the like conversational hypnosis where, you know, they'll say something like, just the fact that you are here watching this video means that you might be trans.
Mm,
And that's a hypnotic technique. It's a
mm,
part of the Milton model. It's called a complex equivalence. And we say something like, just the fact that you're here sitting in this seat means that you're ready for deep change. And that's
mm,
not true. Those are two different statements, but we put them together and they sound true. And
mm,
another one of the things in hypnosis is kind of a law of dominance, that there has to be a kind of one-upsmanship and authority. And with someone who has tons of followers, tons of views, and they present themselves as an authority, that's there. So there are hypnotic qualities to something like that that
mm.
works more for the introvert. And what's also said is, you've never felt comfortable in your body. You've always felt like an outsider. You, you know, you just you struggle. You don't know who you are amongst everybody. And
Which is every kid ever.
yes, yes.
Literally every kid ever.
And it's especially true of someone who is what we call emo, is introvert. It's especially true of them. And we actually, when we do hypnosis, we notice that there is a kind of disconnection with mind and body. Like some of the things that we have them do, they don't connect for them. So that's just a fact of their personality. And this kind of thing seizes on that and says, no, that means this, and that. And, you know, for more of the extroverted person, I can see the kind of hypnosis that you're talking about, that the direct suggestions and everything, that would be very effective on someone who's more extroverted and what we call a physical, who's more body based, and you are more body based in athletics and sports. So yeah, it plays off of not only your maybe fears, but also on your suggestibility.
Mm,
So it attaches itself that way, and you know, it kind of moves you into disbalance because you were feeling a kind of disbalance on the masculine, and you were saying, I don't want that fully. So it pushed you way into the right side of the brain, and that is actually the hypnotic state. And it's just wild the way it worked on you. But tell me about how you got out of this.
so, yeah, great story. The week I started taking hormones was the week I met my girlfriend, my current girlfriend, who I've been dating for more than 2 years now. And we met when I was presenting femininely, and she thought it was really cool. She was really down for me dressing differently and cross-dressing, but she also really liked me just how I was as a guy. And sparks were flying. We were hitting things off really quickly. And 3 weeks after meeting each other, we went camping in Death Valley National Park, just us two. And we had a great time. Things went really well. On the last night, we took mushrooms together and had a great experience. We were just laughing the whole time. And yeah, towards the end of it, I was just thinking to myself, the mushroom was helping me illuminate these thoughts. It's like, firstly, like, so now I'd been taking the hormones for 3 weeks, and I was thinking, firstly, like, God, like, why are you doing this, Shane? Like, you're taking these hormones because of the pornography. Like, why are you doing this? And then on top of that, I was thinking, how can this girl find beauty in you, but you can't find any beauty in yourself? You need some serious help in the Department of Self-Love, some serious help. And hormones are not going to be the answer for that. You can find beauty in yourself. You can find a way. So after that mushroom trip, after that camping trip with Anna, I stopped taking the hormones. Um, so it's just 3 weeks of it, thankfully. So it didn't change my body or my physiology at all. Um, thankfully. And then the fall before that, when I was in the peak of the gender dysphoria, cross-dressing, all that, I did my first breathwork journey ever. And yeah, I was just in some garage, some hippie garage in Venice, and I had a full psychedelic experience just from breathing. I was able, as I'm sure you know, with breath work, I was able to tap into a profound level of ecstasy with my own body, inside of my own body, and a really, really deep, profound connection to my own body that I had never felt before. I basically felt like um I was like an electric rod. Just like energy just coursing through me. Um, so powerful. I had never done it before, and there were some people who had done it before, and they were like yelling and starting to express themselves, and I started just going in and yelling and crying and screaming, because it brings emotions to the surface when we're doing that conscious, connected hyperventilation. A lot of emotions come to the surface. And there's neuroscience behind that I can explain. But yeah, I had this crazy experience. I was like, whoa, this is wild. And I was still in the research lab, and I was thinking, I'm not really liking the research as much as I thought. I want to be more hands-on with people. I don't want to wait until I'm a fully licensed therapist to be working with people and helping. I still want to do that. But I want to find something alternatively that I could lead for people and help people with. So I was thinking maybe I could be a meditation teacher or yoga teacher. And then I did that breath work training. I was like, oh, I could facilitate breath work. This is really cool. So that was in the fall. I started looking around for some facilitation programs. Then fast forward January, stopped taking the hormones, and then January 22. And then I found Awaken Breathwork, um, run by Lucas Mack and Halle Weston, and they were starting their first ever 9-month trauma-informed training program. Um, it was very extensive, one of the most extensive breathwork training programs there is out there. Um, and yeah, it basically dove into how to become a world-class breathwork facilitator and how specifically to help people heal and release trauma through breathwork in a safe and supported way. And I applied and I got into it, and I started April 2022. So a few months after I stopped taking the hormones. And every other week for 9 months, we did a 3-hour live call with an hour-long breathwork journey during it. And through that, by continuously being able to tap into the ecstasy that was present in my own body, and by releasing the emotions of shame and guilt, that, came from the pornography and then like relationship with my parents, I was able to completely let go of the gender dysphoria that I was experiencing over those 9 months. I probably stopped feeling the gender dysphoria around um, probably the 5th or 6th month mark. I still continue to cross dress, but I was cross dressing as a man. Like I didn't have these hallucinations of wanting to have breasts or like a bigger butt or wanting to be feminine. I was just like, I still like cross dressing, but like I'm a man and I'm cool with that. Um, so that was epic. I also was able to get a hold of my pornography addiction. Um, so throughout, I mean, before the training, um, I was watching, well, before dating Anna, I was watching it like every day, basically. Sometimes twice a day. It was really bad. And then started dating Anna. Um, things were really good at the beginning. Honeymoon phase was great. And then after the honeymoon phase during the summer, I fell back into the pornography pretty hard. Um, but that was during the training, and it was really confronting doing breathwork journeys while being in that addiction, because there were some serious emotions that I had to face up to and feel. But breathwork gave me that space to be able to feel those emotions so I could heal them and release them and process them. Um, so yeah, it was powerful. It was really powerful. And by the end of the 9 months, I was able to I had a grip on the addiction. I had stopped watching the porn. Um, I still had a lot of the intrusive thoughts and a lot of the conditioning in my subconscious. But I was able to get a hold of it. By important part, like I said, releasing a lot of the emotions that were leading me back into the loop of needing the pornography. But I think more importantly than that, I had found deep purpose in life. I started hosting free breathwork journeys at my college. I was doing them every Monday starting September 2022. And I realized I'm showing up for people. I'm putting myself out there, and I I don't want to have this junk in my head, while I'm leading breathwork. I also don't want More importantly, I don't want this junk in my head while I'm dating my girlfriend. Like, she's the love of my life. She's incredible. And I don't want to ruin this relationship. So I was able to find purpose, which was really, really essential for breaking myself out of that addiction. Um, and research into logotherapy, Viktor Frankl's stuff, has shown, it's quite clearly shown that people who have purpose are more resilient to addiction. And it is a crucial part of beating addiction, is having strong purpose in life, whether that's through relationships or through a job that you really care about. There are many ways, but we need something. We need something.
You know,
So that was the breathwork training. Um, yeah, do you have any questions around that? That isn't the full healing journey. There's still like the tail end of it, how I got rid of the subconscious conditioning. But yeah, that was how I got a hold of the addiction and let go of the dysphoria.
yeah, you know, I recently took a mind-body psychology program and I found a lot of it to be nonsense. Like some of the transpersonal stuff was a little kind of culty, a little Gnostic.
You're talking like Stanislav Grof, transpersonal?
Yeah, some of it.
Yeah.
But the existential and Frankl, that's where it was. That's what I really resonated with. And it was that message of purpose and the name logos, it's the word, God. And I think that's the big thing here is that connection to divinity is the thing that really heals us from this kind of thing. In my mind, it's, you know, so much of what happens in culture and everything, it's all hypnosis. It's all how do we get you to think the way we want you to think, and what kind of messages can we put into your mind once we've opened it. And there are different ways to open the mind. One is fear, one is excitement, anxiety, um, different ways. And euphoria is one of them. You can open the mind quite a bit with euphoria. And it's really that aspect, the heart, God, that purpose, that meaning, really, that can break that cycle. And that's it. Doesn't surprise me that that's what got you into that path of letting this go. Is that really that connection to being more, to being divine, to being connected, spirituality. So your story is really interesting because you had two things running at once. You had the spiritual pursuit that you were on. It's like you were driving on two roads. You were going through, your addiction, but you were also at the same time. And that's a beautiful message because it's that realization that God was always with you, even in your darkest times. It, you know, your spiritual pursuit was always there. So you were always kind of taken care of. And, it's one thing won in the end. And tell me about how that ended up happening.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just loved what you said. Um, yeah, it really, the meaning making process was essential for that. And breath work, I found I found a deeper importance to breath work than what my teachers were talking about, because it was mostly about like trauma release, releasing emotion safely, doing that. But what was more powerful for me was the way it allowed me to connect to purpose in a deeper way. Yeah, like the emotional releases during breath work are really powerful. Those are really awesome. But if people aren't connected to purpose and what their purpose is in life, I found myself with breath work, with these practices, and I see a lot of people in Los Angeles and um, in these healing circles who go to breath work, go to do ayahuasca ceremony, go to do all these things, and have no purpose in their life. And a lot of the facilitators of these experiences are still stuck in kind of like Freudian psychology that, oh, there's more stuff in your subconscious that you have to bring to the surface. Like there's more childhood pain that you have to release. And there's like more, like you have to go deeper and deeper and deeper, like into the depths, into the depths. And there's a place for that. But if it's not, in my opinion, contextualized with what is your purpose, then you just get in this loop of coming out of the experiences, not having any purpose in your life, feeling like shit, and then the facilitators of these experiences saying, oh, yeah, you need to go back into your childhood more. You need to go back into your past more. So it needs to be contextualized. All of this healing work needs to be contextualized with purpose,
Yes,
with
that's very insightful that you reached that, because that is something that I see so much. I call it digging for pain. You
yeah.
know, and I think it's almost like a new age trap that happens when people just go and dig for more and more pain. And I think the mind is so strong, it'll do what you tell it to do. And if you say look for pain, it'll find it and it'll make
Oh
even.
yeah.
And, you know, I like that you're saying it has to be contextualized with purpose. And, in my work, I don't take someone back first. I take them forward.
Mm,
So I take them into a kind of vision, like what do you want to be? Who does your subconscious show you that you can be?
mm,
And let's build you up. And then when you're built up and strong, then we can go back. Because now you'll be strong enough to face those things. But it yeah, I see that cycle so much. And it feels good to cry and vent, but if there isn't a purpose, there isn't a something ahead in the future for you, then you're just digging into the past and you're stuck in that kind of fluctuating between present moment and the past. And then the future, that pulling force isn't there. So
mhm.
it's very insightful that you caught on to this, because I think many people get stuck in this cycle. It's a loop of pain, and it's not good.
Yeah. Makes a lot of people money.
It sure does.
But yeah, so I come out of the training. Training's great, super high quality. But I'm in school. I'm at USC psychology classes, and there are things there are things that are starting to contradict, not everything, but like a decent portion of what my breathwork teachers were teaching me. And it was mostly my psychology classes were kind of poking holes in the Freudian um, ideas that had been embedded into the breathwork training, and it's embedded in a lot of the spiritual world. So that kind of started to poke some holes for me. And yeah, I was still having, I guess we could take this in two ways. Um, so I'll finish off with my story and then we'll go into Inspiratus a little bit more. So I led a breath work for one of my good friends who fully transitioned genders, was like a huge trans activist, and then detransitioned fully. Um, I led a breathwork journey for him. Very powerful guy. He he connected me. He's like, I just listened to this podcast on this guy, and we were talking about Sissy Hypno. He had been through it. We were talking about all this stuff, and he said, I just listened to this podcast. This guy, Tyson Adams, who does pornography addiction recovery therapy. He's a internal family systems therapist. And I listened to his podcast and I was like, whoa, this is exactly what I'm looking for. My current current therapist at the time didn't even think porn was a bad thing. Like just any porn. And I explained what the sissy stuff was, and I just got no help on that end at all. So I was like, I need to find someone new. because I was still dealing with these intrusive thoughts. They were still, I had, there was still the shame. The shame was still connected to my sexuality. And there was a part of me that wanted to recreate the traumatic experiences that I went through. To like go back to being a sissy, to put myself into those situations. With breath work and doing the daily practice and then doing all those breath work trainings, I was able to build back up my dopamine levels. Because when we do breath work, meditation, ice plunges, workout, we replenish our dopamine. And we build back our baseline dopamine levels, which gives us back our ability to control our focus and attention. So like I said, I had control over it, but I saw this internal war going on. I was starting to win the internal war, but there was still like this conflict that was taking a lot of energy from me. So find Tyson, start working with him last August, August 23. Powerful work, really great guy. That do you know internal family systems?
Mhm.
Yeah. So for the people who are listening, briefly, like internal family systems says that we have multiple parts of us inside of our psyche. Um, Really great way to think about this is you're trying to make a decision and there's a part of you saying one thing and there's a part of you saying another and there's conflict. Um, Internal family systems recognizes these multiple parts and works to get them working in unison more. Um, so we did really great work together. He is just like this sex transmutation wizard. Um, he has been doing a lot of really good work in the pornography addiction recovery space and does one-on-one work. And then he's like putting together courses for people that can help people get out of these holes. He had never heard of Sissy Hypno. Um, and he actually went like after like one or two sessions with me, he actually watched it to like see what I was going through. And he like the next session he was like, that was the darkest shit I've ever seen. Like I cannot believe, like he was blown away that that was taking place. But we did some really good work with IFS, starting to pull more of the conditioning out. And then about a month and a half ago, him and three other men hosted a mushroom retreat in Costa Rica. It was a men's group, 11 participants, four facilitators, and um, we, yeah, it was beautiful, beautiful retreat. We did a lot of men's work. I got to lead some breath work there. It was really, really powerful. And then we did a mushroom ceremony, and we got body work done on us while we were on the mushrooms. Bioelectric body work. Basically, Tyson has this electrical box that has these electrical currents that are safe for it to go through your body. So he had this electrical circuit going through your body while he was massaging you. And yeah, I was just able to like fully scream out all the conditioning. And yeah, it was it was really powerful. It was really powerful. And what I found in that experience, getting really, really intimate with men, having, like having the touch, having the body work, having that connection with men is what I think I was really searching for in those sexual experiences with men, with the Sissy Hypno, was just an deeper intimacy with men, just deeper intimacy, a sort of a sacred masculinity. Um, I grew up like you can't cry, like don't feel your emotions, like just classic, like be a man, tough it out. And yeah, that obviously causes a lot of pain to boys and men. And what I found in Costa Rica with that group was a group of men embodying sacred masculinity, where we were open and vulnerable with each other. We were doing the healing. We were seeing each other in each other's catharsis. It was really powerful, really powerful. And yeah, I it was crazy. I was on the table and it brought me on the massage table. Well, peaked during the trip, and it brought me back to the sexual assault experience, and it was really scary. I went into like full freeze, and Tyson was like, "Find your no, Shane. Find your no." And I was no, no, and then I just started screaming at the top of my lungs, "Fuck no! Fuck no!" Just fully screaming, letting it out, like setting that really, really hard boundary, stepping into that sacred masculine rage that I never knew I had never tapped into before. I knew it was somewhere in there, but I fully found that during the mushroom experience, which was whew, so powerful. And that having that strong boundary, having that rage that I know that I can tap into, um, I've just come back with like all the conditioning out of my head, with like way better connection to my masculinity. Um, and I'm no longer in this internal conflict anymore because I set that boundary in my head. I set that boundary in my head. And it wasn't just a no, it was started with a no for myself, but it started like fuck no to like how we're treating the planet, fuck no to all the war that's taking place, fuck no to all the pain and suffering and loneliness, and fuck no to all the other men who are trapped in these fucking cycles of these addiction. I was just fuck no. Just it was so awesome. So awesome. Um, but yeah, that was great. Um, and now Tyson and I are with my company Inspiratus, and with what he's doing, we're starting to work together to form something that will help men get out of sissy hypnosis. Um, so we're starting to work together now. I'm really hyped on that. Yeah, so that was how I fully cleared it out. So yeah, do you have any questions from there?
Yes. So connecting more to this divine masculine, this power, how has that changed the way you view the divine feminine now?
I have a deep responsibility to her. I have a deep responsibility to my girlfriend, to our relationship. I had that before, but having that conflict going on in my head definitely made things harder in our relationship. But I have a deep responsibility to her. I have a deep responsibility to the planet, to Mother Earth, and to do everything in my power to give back to her and to help others awaken to her beauty. So we can get out of the situation that we're in. The sissy hypno is wanting you to let go of all responsibility. Let go of all responsibility. But it's what I've found now is a deep responsibility, and wanting to do that, and necessity to do that, and finding power in that. Um, I got this is a small thing. I never would have done this before the retreat, but my girlfriend and I we were clubbing in LA, and we got out of it, and she was getting a hot dog while we were waiting for our Uber. And it was this short little Mexican lady making hot dogs, and this drunk guy comes out of the club, and he's like, "Oh, can I like put my foot on your hot dog stand?" And the lady's like, "No, like those are my hot dogs." And she said no to him, and then he got all big and was like, "Oh, you're gonna tell me no?" And he's like to this short little Mexican lady, and I stepped right in front of them and put my hand on his chest. I was like, "Get the fuck away from her!" Like, and I was staring him dead in the eye. Get the fuck away from her! Like, don't treat someone like that. Don't do that. And I scared him off, and he ran away. I never would have done that before the retreat, but in like my instincts stepped in right there. I am protecting the feminine. I am protecting the feminine.
That's wonderful. It's inspirational because now with that divine power, that divine masculine, you're in the role of protector now. That I think that's the natural role for men. And I mean, what do you think the importance of men connecting with that divine masculine is?
I mean, it's it's so important. I mean, the amount of energy that's derived from that to live your best life, to run your business, to be present in your relationships. So there's so much energy there. Um, so for yourself, deeply important. But for the world at large now, it's needed. It's needed. Like there is so much corruption, there's so much tyranny, totalitarianism, and destruction of our planet, destruction of our minds, destruction of our relationships. And, it's not just like women can also tap into this sacred rage, but we need to access it now more than ever. We need to access it. We need to say, fuck no, enough is enough.
Yeah, it's interesting because, we have almost cycles that happen over and over again in history. And I remember reading a book. I can't remember the name of it, but it was about a cave, and it was talking about the spiritual kind of journey, and that a man will be confronted at one point with something presenting itself as a kind of a goddess. And if he allows himself to be taken in by the goddess, that's the end of his journey. Like he doesn't die or anything, but his journey, his spiritual journey just stops there. But if he manages to break through the seduction, he actually blossoms into a full man, and he comes into balance with that you know feminine. But
Mhm.
it reminds me of your story.
Mm.
You confronted that femininity, and it went really dark, and it wasn't just because of your journey. The outside influence of the pornography really kind of tainted it and gave you a really distorted feminine. It
Mhm.
presented this subservient feminine,
Mhm.
and you broke through it. And I think that's just very inspirational the way you did it. And what do you think the social media influences in all this?
Um, yeah, I mean, there are like the groomers, on Instagram and TikTok and stuff, or like you like you were talking about, I don't know. I think at large, even out, I guess I'll speak more broadly outside of the like just the transgender world. I mean, it's hypnosis and it's stealing our attention. I mean, social media is designed to commodify our attention, to turn our attention into profits and to steal our attention. And our attention is one of our most valuable assets. Without our attention, we can't chase our dreams. We can't be in deep relationships. We can't have peace at all. And, you know, corporations like social media, television, pornography are making trillions of dollars by commoditizing our attention. They know it's the most profitable game there is. They know it's the most profitable game there is. So we need to reclaim our attention. We need to reclaim our attention. Um, and that's actually the first pillar in the Inspiratus Breathwork philosophy. Um, so I would love to get into that more with you and what
Yeah.
I've built.
Yeah.
Um,
Tell me, what is your take on breath work? Like what what do you bring to the breath work, and how has your journey kind of changed what you do?
yeah, so breathwork, for people who don't know, it is a, and we've already talked about it a lot, but it is a controlled hyperventilation. It's a conscious controlled hyperventilation that takes people into altered states of consciousness, similar to psychedelic experiences. They're very powerful. Um, a lot of enlightenment can be gleaned from it. A lot of emotions can be released. Um, but what Inspiritus Breathwork focuses on, we create collective spaces for humans to forge purpose, build resilience, and reclaim attention through our research-backed approach to breathwork. So, as I said earlier, breathwork is a very, very powerful tool to reclaim our attention, because it increases our available dopamine and builds back our baseline dopamine levels. If people are interested in learning more about dopamine, Dr. Anna Lembke wrote The Dopamine Nation. She has some good videos on YouTube talking about dopamine, and how we can replenish our dopamine. But definitely check her out. But breathwork is a way to do that. So I started leading free workshops on my campus junior year of college. So I got a lot of practice from that. And um, one of my friends, Finn, he he was saying, I always ask people at the beginning, like, why are you here? And Finn always said it helps me do my schoolwork way better. Like for days after I do one of your workshops, I have way more focus. Like I feel like I'm like charged up. And at first I was like, oh, that's not the point of it. Like we're supposed to be like, you're supposed to be healing trauma. Like this, like it's not so you can like be a better school worker. But then after sitting with it for a bit, I realized like, wait, that's incredibly important. Like I'm giving what breathwork is giving people is a tool to reclaim their attention. Um, so they can live their best lives and be their best self. Because like I said, our attention is one of our most valuable assets. Um, so focus on that. That's inherent in the experience. That's a benefit you get from it. So we don't really focus on that as an emotional theme. Um, building resilience. So again, the breathwork world right now is very, very, it's hyper trauma focused. And it is giving people a way to release trauma and release pain, but it doesn't have an understanding of what resilience is and what psychological resilience actually means. So I incorporate, do I have the book right here? I do have the book right here. Hold on a second. Um, The End of Trauma, George Bonanno. He is a psych researcher at Columbia University, and he's one of the top researchers on resilience. So I read his book, and I actually met with him online. He agreed to talk with me, and we talked about how we could bring resilience into breathwork. But basically, what he found was there are three main things that contribute to resilience, people being resilient in the face of trauma. Um, the three things are confidence in one's ability to cope, optimism about the future, and seeing the stressor as a challenge and not a threat. So we do the trauma release, we do the past healing work, but what I also help people build is that optimism in the future, their confidence in their ability to cope, and by immersing people, because breath work, the emotions come up, the memories come up, by immersing people in their stressors, I help them see it as a challenge and not as a threat to their life. Um, so I integrate the top, like the forefront resilience findings into how I lead breath work so that people can really release their past stuff, but then they're more resilient to stressors and trauma in the future. And then lastly, the most important one is I help people forge purpose. Breath work is the tool to do that. Why is it the tool to do that? When we go into these altered states of consciousness, we decrease our default mode network activity in the brain. So the default mode network is what's happening most of the time. It's when we're in self-referential thought, meaning, oh, what's an example? Oh, am I talking too much right now? Or, oh, do I look good enough for this podcast? Or, oh, are people going to think I'm funny? Constantly referencing ourself with the world around us, judging us in the world around us. It's also active when we are time traveling. So when we're in the future or when we're in the past, if we're thinking about the consequences of a decision we're going to make in the future, or if we're regretting the past, we're in the default mode network. So it's constant. It's basically the default analytical mind that most of us are in most of the time. So why did this develop? From an evolutionary perspective, it developed so that we could judge ourselves before the tribe judged us. So if we were judged poorly by the tribe during our hunter-gatherer times, that would mean exile, which would mean certain death. So we developed a default mode network so that to create greater social cohesion within the tribal network. So it's really important. But what's happening now is our tribe is extended to the millions of people that we can access from social media and from our interconnectedness. So our default mode network is in this heightened state. For most people, it's in this heightened state of anxiety because we are trying to reference ourselves with the tribe of the entire world, which is fucking impossible, right? And also, the problem is, being exiled doesn't mean death anymore, but we still think that, you know? So what does this have to do with purpose? Most of us live lives based on what we've been told to do, based on how our parents have programmed us from parental conditioning, from societal conditioning, even from traumatic conditioning. Most of us are stuck in the default mode network, living lives based off of what we should be doing, listening to the shoulds, and not actually living how we truly want. So during an Inspiratus Breathwork journey, decrease the default mode network, and it gives this space for people to actually have the freedom to contemplate what brings them true purpose in life, what brings them true meaning, what are the things that are truly valuable to them. The way I lead my journeys are specifically designed to bring that to the surface for people. Because we're not focusing on the past as much. I'm not taking people into the past as much. I'm just creating this fertile ground within their consciousness for purpose to arise. So that's how Inspiratus Breathwork is different. That's the work I do with people, with my one-on-one clients. One-on-ones have been going really well. I've actually worked with one man already who is suffering from Sissy Hypno. And our work went really, really well together. Just like me, he was able to get a hold of the addiction. Breath work on its own wasn't enough. He had been addicted for like 10 years, like me. So it wasn't enough to fully let go of all the conditioning, just like me. But he was able to get a hold of the addiction and find purpose in his life, which was fucking awesome. So yeah, my one-on-one sessions are great. I work with people over 6 sessions. Um, so and over those 6 sessions, there is past healing work, but I'm mostly focusing on helping people build these positive psychological traits through breath work that are essential for happy mental health, gratitude, purpose, resilience, flow, doing breathwork journeys and workshops on each of these things to help cultivate these qualities in people. It's a lot of fun. I love working with people one-on-one. It's a really great time. And then more outwardly, I host larger workshops. I just hosted my largest workshop yet. Uh, I brought 60 people into a nightclub, um, and it was a fully sound immersive breathwork event. It was one of the nicest nightclubs. It is one of the nicest nightclubs in LA, the Academy. And yeah, the sound, the bass was just coursing through everyone. And going into that hypersensitive state where your body already feels like an electric rod, with all the energy coursing through you, people were saying the bass, no one had experienced anything like it before. It was a really profound experience for the people who were in there. And it was a next level up in the breathwork world of what anyone's doing. The level of sound immersion just it was a next level experience. It was great. And that whole theme of the workshop was forging your purpose. So I gave a speech before, we did some journaling to help people start to map their purpose. We did small group sharing so people had connection time. And then we had an hour-long sound immersive breathwork journey that was designed to help people connect to their purpose. And then more journaling and sharing afterwards. But it was a beautiful venue, absolutely incredible. There's a photo behind you in your room of the ancient bristle cone.
Yes.
You've been there before?
Yes. It's there's this trail up there where you can go and walk around and you see all the Bristol cones. Methuselah is not pointed out because they don't want anyone to know where she is, but it's a beautiful trail. Like I had gone there maybe 15 years ago, but I just saw one, but I really wanted to go and just be around them, and it was magical.
Mm, so beautiful. I've been up there twice now, and I've had very spiritual experiences up there. For the people who don't know, the ancient bristlecone pine forest is in California. They're the oldest trees on the planet. The oldest one, Methuselah, that Eddie mentioned, is more than 5,000 years old, and it's still living. Powerful energy up there. And when I got to the academy, to the nightclub, it's called the Academy, we were setting everything up, and they had some in-house visuals that were like nature themed, kind of like meditation. They put some stuff together for me that would like kind of fit the vibe. And they had like 10 set up, and they're kind of looping through them. And they got to the last one, and it was a time-lapse video of an ancient bristle cone with the stars like going in the background. And that's what we had on the background, on the whole lighting system in the workshop during it. And I saw it, I was like, that one, like it has to be the ancient bristlecone one. And we got like my logo up there and everything. I was like, oh, so great. Um, but yeah, that was awesome. That was definitely uh the peak of my career so far. But I'm gonna keep doing more sound immersive stuff. I lead breathwork at music festivals. I'm on their wellness lineup. I'm on their wellness lineups. I'm doing a few this summer that I'm stoked on. And yeah, gonna keep growing, gonna keep doing stuff at the academy. Really the main goal I want the goal I'm aiming at right now is doing breathwork at Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado. I grew up going to Red Rocks. I love Red Rocks. My favorite EDM artist, LS Dream, he did his he led the first ever sound bath at Red Rocks last fall. I went to that. It was so powerful. But I would want to work out some sort of collaboration with an artist where they play music during it, they live DJ, and then there's a huge breathwork journey going on. Um, but that's the goal. That's what Inspiratus has to offer. With my one-on-one stuff, the reason I went on Benjamin's podcast, the reason I'm talking to you now, I really want to be of service. And I already have been. I want to continue being of service to men who are struggling with Sissy Hypno, um, and with gender dysphoria. I've been through it. I have this. I can provide the empathy of having that shared experience, and I have the skills as a practitioner to help people out of those situations and circumstances. So, um, yeah, I really am opening my door for that. I have, you can book a free connection call with me on my website. I had some people reach out to me from Benjamin's. But yeah, that's definitely like I have the sound immersive, more outward stuff. That's like a lot of fun. And then I have really like the deep work, the dirty jobs, that like I really, really want to help people with in their darkest and the darkest suffering. So yeah, that's Inspiritus. So yeah.
Yeah, that all sounds really, really magical. I like what you said about the default network in hypnosis work and hypnotherapy work. We call that a state of hypnosis when, you're kind of driven by conditioning that's not your own. It's a hypnotic trance basically. And, so much of the work I do is dehypnosis. It's not really hypnosis. It's just breaking people out of that. And it sounds kind of like what you're doing there. You're breaking people out of that hypnotic trance, that default network. And I really like the electronic music mixed in there. It's, part of my spiritual journey is I meditate before any session, and I always use electronic music. There's just something to the pulse in the heart and the energy that you can feel throughout your entire body, and it just manifests as like chills everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I can imagine what that felt like. But in hypnosis, we set what we call anchors or triggers, and music is a part of them. So you can, even in the psychedelic work, you can set a trigger or an anchor to music. And whenever you hear that song, you immediately feel the sensation that you felt during the first time you heard it. So it's like I think are setting, anchors there for people. Now, when they hear those songs and they're out, they're going to get that feeling of, oh, that breath work that I did, that journey, connection with all the people there. So they're going to start to feel that. So it's like the work is going to continue even past their visit with you or their experience with you.
100, 100%, 100%. I led at a festival, same but different. It was at Lake Paris, an hour and a half outside of LA last October. And one of my favorite artists, Grizz, played there on Saturday night. And then I led breathwork Sunday morning or Sunday afternoonish. And I had two Grizz songs in the playlist. And some of the feedback I got after was that when the Grizz songs came on, it took them back into the ecstatic state that they were at last night when they were dancing to him, and they went even deeper into the experience. So you're definitely right about that. You're definitely right. Um, yeah. I would love, I'll send it to you. LS Dream, the guy who did the sound bath. He does spiritual dubstep music, really good. And he has this side project called Light Code that is high production meditation music, sound bath music. Really, really good stuff. And he did his Light Code set at Red Rocks. That was very powerful. But yeah, I'll send it to you. It's really good music to meditate to. Yeah, I think you'd really like it.
Where do you think the future of the healing is? What do you envision it in your craziest psychedelic vision? What have you seen?
For me, what I'm calling in when I'm at raves, when I'm at festivals, when I'm on, psychedelics, medicine, having fun, in the crowd, I'll take some deep breaths. I'll do the breathing that we did at the beginning. I won't do the full like I won't do the full like breath work activation because you don't want to do that standing up, obviously, because you could pass out. But I'll take those deep breaths, put my thoughts onto the breathing, onto the present moment action. Um, I had this one experience. I was at EDC in Las Vegas and huge, like 160,000 person festival, huge fireworks, like everything. And I met this guy. He was in the crowd by himself. He's like, I flew in from Miami. Like, can I hang out with you guys? I'm with my girlfriend. He's like, yeah, sure. He's by himself, and I'm taking some deep breaths. I'm on acid. He's rolling on Molly. Just taking some deep breaths in between a drop. And he looks at me. He's like, are you okay, Shane? I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. And I'm just doing some breathing. He's like, oh, I hear that's like really good for you. Like, that's healthy. And he's kind of in the thinking about it mindset. And I was like, yeah, it is. You want to do some with me? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, look, just do three deep breaths with me right now. He's like, okay. So I grabbed his hand and I led him through what we just did, but just with three breaths. Um, and it started to link up with the beat of the music. And then last one, breathing into the present moment, breathing out to the wonderful moment. And at the bottom of the last breath, it was perfectly timed with the bass drop and all the fireworks shot off at the same time. And it was like one of the most perfect moments ever. I was like blown away. And he just looked at me like, what the? That was crazy. So since then, when I'm in the crowd at festivals, I'll lead breathing for my friends, just that basic stuff, because you're already tripping, you're already high, and the sound is so intense. It brings you into a really cool place. And I've had visions during breath work of me going on stage with my favorite EDM artists and leading 10 deep breaths, everyone holding hands, the entire crowd just doing 10 deep breaths together, bringing that community, everyone being together. And then on the last breath, exhaling, all the fireworks going off. Just a perfect moment, just one moment of unity with thousands of people connected to the breath. That's that's where I'm going. That's the mission I've set out. That's the vision I'm manifesting. I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but that's the path that I'm on. And I know it's gonna happen one day. So yeah, that's like the wildest shit
It's
that I think we could do. But that and then doing it at Red Rocks, having like an 1,000 person breathwork journey with 100 facilitators, one facilitator per person, something like that would be fucking spectacular as well. But connecting nature, music, breathing.
that's that's the perfect place to end it here. It's your beautiful vision. And where can people reach out to you and connect with you?
Yeah, so my website is inspiritusbreathwork.com. I'll send you the link to that. Maybe you could put it in the caption below on the YouTube video. And then my Instagram is breathing with Shane. Breathing with Shane. So super simple. And yeah, I'm like I said, I do free connection calls, hop on a call with me. Um, I'll listen to what is coming up for you, what you need help with. I can explain how Inspiritus can be helpful for you, and then we'll do some free breathing together so you can just kind of test the waters. So yeah, and if you want to reach out about anything else, just talk or whatever, my door's open. So yeah.
Shane, thank you so much for being here. This was wonderful. And
Yeah, thank you, Eddie.
yes, and keep breathing.
Yeah, you as well, dude.